Hi everyone, my name is Melissa van Dijk, and in today's video I want to talk about this whole idea of healthy fats. Because I think there's actually a pretty serious problem with how this information gets translated into everyday advice. And I'm not sure how many people are actually noticing it while they're doing it. And I only noticed it because I had been documenting what I was doing myself for so long. So basically you hear everywhere that you need healthy fats. There's even this guideline that gets promoted all the time that around 20–35% of your daily energy should come from fat, which I actually think is where a lot of this starts. Because then you naturally think, well, I need to make sure that I'm getting enough of them to meet my requirements, maybe even on a daily basis like that. So you think, well, where can I get these healthy fats from? Because apparently you should limit saturated fats. So then you start narrowing down what these healthy fats are supposed to be. And you basically end up with things like olive oil, avocado, nuts, nut butters, seeds, macadamias, and so on. It is almost like someone was sitting there thinking, well, how can we make people end up buying this same handful of foods that can be marketed everywhere? But I mean, that is just the commercial side of things. But the more interesting part that I want to talk about today is what actually happens next, because you start adding these foods everywhere. So, for example, you make oats in the morning and think, well, I need my healthy fats, so maybe I should add some nuts or nut butter. And you do not know that almost everyone online profits from promoting these things. So you are like, well, it is everywhere when I Google it or use an AI. The guidelines also say that I need healthy fats, so I should probably add the nuts. And maybe you even think that the one Melissa is doing with just banana and milk actually tastes better, but how can she know? She is not a nutritionist, and she is missing the healthy fats here. So the message basically starts reinforcing itself because of the framework that you have been taught to believe in. Or I don't know, maybe you make a salad, and obviously you need some olive oil. I mean, you're probably doing that because most people would never sit there and think, well, I'm just going to eat these leaves exactly like this. So you put oil on top, maybe some vinegar, maybe some nuts, to make the whole thing taste like something. Or maybe you cook some eggs, so you put oil in the pan. Or you may have vegetables, so you drizzle olive oil over them, as if the vegetables were not already food on their own. And I think this is where the problem really starts, because you're not necessarily adding these things because you were hungry, or even because you particularly wanted them. But you're doing it because you have been made to believe that something is missing from the meal without them. Because otherwise you might not reach your healthy fat target for the day. I also used to think like that. You know, those weird meals I showed you in my community tab? I was often thinking, well, I haven't really had any healthy fats today, so I should probably add some. And I mean, this is even without getting into the whole other health halo around these foods with anti-inflammatory compounds, antioxidants, plant compounds, or whatsoever, which just adds another level on top of it. But my point here really is that when you actually go back to what the body needs, the argument becomes much narrower. Yes, there are certain essential fatty acids that we have to get from food. Fine, okay. But somehow that gets translated into this completely different message that you need to deliberately add healthy fats to your meals. I mean, why the hell do you want to do that if you're already getting or eating real whole foods? You're already getting fats from the foods themselves, even if that's just 5% one day and another day it's 10%. Like, who the hell cares? Different foods naturally contain different amounts. If you eat seasonally and have not fallen victim to this whole processed food supply where olive oil, nuts, seeds and the like are constantly being pushed, then you absolutely do not need to add them at all. You can eat them if you like them, or for the most part I would probably say tolerate them, because some of these things can actually be really hard on digestion. So you really do not have to eat these things if you don't want them. And also remember, if you can only make a certain food enjoyable by adding oils, nuts, avocado, dressing or whatever else on top, maybe it is worth asking yourself whether you actually like that food in the first place. or whether you are just trying to turn it into something you want to eat. Because this way you naturally start selecting the foods you actually enjoy and that your body wants to eat. You just might not see it because you have been trained to think within these nutritional frameworks. You need to step outside of them and actually look at what you are doing, because that is where you start realizing how much of your food choices are being shaped by the framework itself. And that is where the magic happens. So my message here is just eat seasonal, real whole foods. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!